Hey guys, it's alot here, and today I wanted to discuss something that's been on my mind a lot recently. As I'm sure most of you know, there has been somewhat of a shortage of new weapons of late. Oh no. So I thought I would support the cause by telling you guys about a new weapon idea that I had for the Pyro. So as it currently stands, the Pyro has 4 unique flamethrowers, excluding skins.
What? The soldier has 8 unique rocket launchers? What the fuck? It's fucking bullshit! I can't believe the Pyro's only got fucking 4! This is bullshit!
Regardless, before we look at what the new flamethrower we would need is, let's take a look at what we already have. First, the stock flamethrower is your all-purpose fire-spewing machine that has an air blast that costs 20 ammo and grants 20 health on ally extinguish. Then there is the backburner that grants 100% critical hits from behind and has a plus 150% air blast cost. That equates to 50 ammo, meaning you can air blast with this thing 4 times from full ammo before you are done like the fuel guzzling bastard of my old car, you piece of junk. Fun fact, I named my backburner this. Next we have the degreaser, which has gone under some changes recently, but currently deploys 60% faster, holsters 30% faster, and has a minus 66% afterburn penalty, and has a plus 25% air blast cost. So, a bit of a mouthful. Finally, we have the idol and mascot for all W plus M1ers around the world, the Phlogistinator. Another weapon that has undergone some changes recently, but not necessarily for the better. Its stats go: build oomph by dealing damage, then alt fire and full oomph, which will make you taunt and gain critical hits for several seconds. You are invulnerable while oomph taunting, you get no random critical hits, and there is no air blast whatsoever. Now I don't know if you guys see much of a pattern here, but allow me to show you some examples of weapons from other classes. As we all know, as updates have gone on by, every class has gone through changes to allow multiple playstyles. Now I'm not just talking about sniper and bow sniper, but more weapons emphasizing different attributes. An example of this would be the heavy. The brass beast deals more damage per second in exchange for less mobility, while the Tomislav exchanges more mobility for less damage per second, with the stock mini sitting happening in the middle. There it is. A better example showing playstyle difference is the Scottish Resistance, which supports a more defense style of play, while the Quickie Bomb launcher supports a more offense style of play, with the Sticky launcher still capable of doing both. So let's look back at the flamethrower again, and we can see it has 2 attributes: fire and air blast, or burning and blasting, or as I like to call it, W plus M1 and skill. So looking back at the other flamethrowers, let's see if we can categorize them. Well, starting considering the Flogger doesn't even have an air blast, we can put it at one extreme. The backburner's biggest downside is also its air blast cost, so I guess we'll put it next to the Flog. And the degreaser, well, back in the day we could have made the argument it was more of a skilled weapon to use, but it was less about air blasting and more about its own switchy, weapony hybrid thing. But it recently got changed to have an air blast cost, so for the purpose of this exercise, we'll put it here. Huh, now doesn't this look strange? A little lopsided there, eh? Yes, as it currently stands, there is no flamethrower at all that encourages air blasting except for the stock. You could almost convince me that Valve wanted to regret putting it in the game, as there's literally nothing else to support that attribute, except for the fact that they added in the health back on ally extinguish. Come on, make up your mind, Valve. Fuck! Like, as much as I dislike the W plus M1 stereotype, it's bloody true, and Valve encourages that. No wonder people think Pyro takes no skill, because with these choices you literally have no reason to believe otherwise. So if you couldn't tell, my idea for a new flamethrower would be in order to tip the scale somewhat in the direction of air blasting, and hopefully give some credit back to the Pyro. So what's my idea? Well, it wouldn't be anything like giving the Pyro less air blast costs, because then you're going to have people cunt blasting people into the wall just to piss them off all the time. No, I think if they have a weapon like the Flog, which encourages players to W plus M1 like lunatics, this weapon should encourage people to actually use skill, and perhaps deter those who would use it ineffectively. If you don't already know, a successfully air blasted projectile will instantly turn into a mini crit unless the projectile is already critical before reflected. And I cannot say how many times I've done the sickest fucking 360 no-scope blind upside down air blast of destiny into some asshole's face, only for them to lose half health and smack my optical mask right off my stupid face. So I can see how people would be turned off from it, as it really is a lot of risk without much guaranteed reward. I mean, you are literally daring projectiles to the face here. So my idea is essentially the new flamethrower would guarantee that all reflected projectiles would be critical hits. It's a similar idea to the flare gun, where it's the one redeeming trait to the other flare guns is that it guarantees criticals against burning players while the others only mini crit. The flamethrower would also have somewhere between 15-20% less damage or less afterburn damage, I'm not really sure, just so it would deter away those who might abuse it, while still allowing players to feel like they can still burn people to death. And it's as simple as that. That's all I believe it needs to be. It simultaneously rewards those who prefer to play with the air blast while also allowing the larger variety of options for the pyro. As for what it would be named or look like, I don't know honestly. You guys can decide that, or even look at the workshop. There are tons of super cool flamethrower ideas in there. My favourite is the Exterminator. It's so good, look at it! Oh Jesus, look at that! This next weapon is probably going to be a bit controversial as it's not as much as a new stats weapon like the flamethrower, but rather a new mechanic weapon. This weapon spawned from one of the most confusing weapons the Pyro owns, yet a personal favourite of mine, the Neon Annihilator. For those of you who don't know, this thing does 100% critical hits against wet players. Because, you know, as a Pyro there will be tons of wet players around you. What? Now don't get me wrong, I get this is supposed to be a weapon to finish off those assholes who think they can escape you in their precious water, but it's just so situational. And yeah, I know it has the Sapper's Removed ability, which also happens to be fairly situational. See, this is where items like the Sun on a Stick fall, because it relies so heavily on other players and events to take place that are almost completely out of your control. The Neon Annihilator currently only does crits to wet players, wet meaning if they are in or have recently been in water, coated in Girardi, or Mad Milk. The Girardi and Mad Milk being key here, as they can be used anywhere on any map, so I would suggest a similar throwable item for the Pyro. But before you freak out, no, I'm not planning on giving the Pyro a water-based weapon, that's ridiculous, but being wet doesn't exactly have to mean water. How about something like an oil line? Or at least something containing oil, which would have varying effects depending on how you use it. Essentially, it would work like the other two throwable objects, coating anyone in the radius that it explodes in oil, which would then consider them as being wet and allow the Neon Annihilator to do its thing. And before you say that sounds too OP to allow the Pyro to just melee crit someone after throwing stuff at them, joke's on you because I just described the Girardi and the Bushwhacker combo for the sniper. Anyway, of course, just coating them in oil isn't going to do much, and I know the way it's sounding now doesn't seem like it would have much benefit in terms of lighting people on fire, as you can already do that a million different ways as Pyro. But how about those covered in oil and on fire are marked for a few seconds, and the burning oil on them will be spitting off and all around them, potentially lighting any other nearby enemies to the marked target. And before you ask, no, the other enemies that are lit this way won't be marked, they will merely be set on fire. Sure, the target would be visibly marked so people know not to get near them, but in a panic state it could be a really interesting way to spread your fire far. The basic idea for this comes from the idea of lighting one ant on fire only for it to run back into its nest and ignite the rest of the ants. I feel like this would be a unique way of extending the Pyro's theoretical range and add an interesting dynamic to the game. The downside? Well, other than the fact that the item itself is a downside because you are literally switching out a weapon that does damage for this, unlike the Mad Milk and Girardi, I honestly can't think of a way to extinguish teammates with oil. Yeah, no. Now, I've been playing TF2 since 2009 and I like to think I know what I'm talking about, but perhaps not. Do you disagree with this idea or have a better suggestion? Then let me know in the comments. I have other ideas for weapons, of course, not necessarily just for the Pyro, but yeah. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. There'll be more coming next week and etc. I have lots planned still. And I've been Azonamato, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.